People will always have something to say. They'll question your silence, doubt your decisions, and challenge your direction. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something they don't understand. The truth is, the moment you start rising, you'll notice the noise get louder. That's the world trying to pull you back into comfort, into sameness, into average. But you weren't born to explain yourself to people stuck in cycles you're trying to break free from. You were born to elevate. There comes a point when you realize that explaining your every move is just a distraction dressed up as duty. You don't owe anyone a step-by-step guide to your transformation. You don't need to justify your boundaries, your discipline, your solitude, or your obsession with growth. That's your business. Your life is not a group project. If someone doesn't understand why you've changed, let them stay confused. That confusion is the echo of their own stagnation, not a reflection of your truth. You see, when you start focusing on yourself, when you lock in, when you train your mind to see the long term and sacrifice short-term applause, people get uncomfortable. They're used to the version of you that over-explained, over-apologized, and stayed small so they could feel comfortable. But comfort doesn't build legacies. It doesn't build excellence. It doesn't shock the world. What does? Elevation. Quiet, relentless, unapologetic elevation. You have to understand, the higher you climb, the fewer people can go with you. Not because you're better than them, but because you've decided to be better than who you were yesterday. That takes discipline. That takes vision. That takes courage. Most people don't want that kind of responsibility. They want comfort, and comfort loves company. But purpose requires sacrifice. Purpose requires clarity, and most of all, purpose requires silence, because real growth doesn't always come with a soundtrack. So stop pausing your progress to explain it to people who never intended to grow with you in the first place. Let them talk. Let them assume. Let them whisper your name in rooms you've outgrown. You're not here to be understood. You're here to become undeniable. You're here to build in silence, work through the darkness, and rise so high that even the ones who counted you out are forced to count you in. And yes, it will be lonely. Yes, you'll question yourself. But every time you choose elevation over explanation, you're training your mind to put legacy over likability. And when that switch flips, when you stop asking for permission and start claiming your power, you become dangerous, not because you're trying to prove anything to anyone else, but because you've finally realized you don't have to. Let the results talk. Let your energy shift. Let your silence echo louder than their noise. You don't have to shout to be heard. You just have to rise. And when you do, not someday, not when they approve, but right now, the world won't need an explanation. Your elevation will say it all. Everyone talks about wanting to change, wanting more, wanting to rise. But talk is cheap when it's not backed by action. You see, dreams are beautiful, but dreams without discipline, they're just noise. They fade. They float around in your mind, giving you a sense of hope, but no direction. What sets people apart, what shocks the world, is not what they say. They all say something. It's what they do, day in and day out, when no one's watching, when there's no applause, when the motivation's gone and only discipline remains. Discipline is the quiet engine behind every great story. It doesn't scream, it doesn't demand attention, but it gets the job done. Every morning you get up and put in the work when others are still talking, still doubting, still sleeping. You're already moving. You're building something real. And that's why discipline is louder than words, because it doesn't need to announce itself. The results will. It's easy to start something. Anyone can begin with fire and excitement, but discipline shows up when the fire dies down, when the inspiration fades and all that's left is the repetition, the grind, the silence. That's when character is revealed. That's when champions are made. Not on the first day, but on the 100th, the 1,000th, the day when no one sees you but you show up anyway, not because you feel like it or better, but because you said you would. You don't need to post about it. You don't need to prove it to anyone. Discipline is not about validation. It's about alignment. You're aligning your actions with your purpose, your vision, your higher standard. While others are wasting energy explaining their plans, you're quietly executing. While they argue, you're evolving. While they boast, you're building. And when the time comes, when it's time to reveal what you've been working on, the silence you kept will roar louder than anything you could have said. Understand this: your habits shape your future far more than your intentions ever will. You can have big goals, big ideas, and big talent, but without the structure of discipline, they collapse under pressure. Talent gets outpaced, motivation wears off. But discipline endures. It grows stronger through the resistance. It sharpens you through the repetition. And one day, you'll wake up and realize that while the world was watching others, you were becoming unstoppable. The real ones, the focused ones, they're not trying to impress anyone. They're too busy improving. They don't need to scream their goals from the rooftops. Their lives become the proof. Their consistency becomes their legacy. Every rep, every sacrifice, every early morning, every late night, it all adds up. That's the math of discipline. Quiet input, loud results. So if you want to shock everyone, don't shout. Show up. Don't explain. Execute. Be the one who's underestimated at first, ignored at times, but undeniable in the end. Because the loudest message you'll ever send won't come from your mouth, it'll come from your life. And when that message is delivered, it won't be a whisper, it'll be an earthquake. They'll laugh at you. Count on it. They'll laugh at your goals because they can't see your vision. They'll laugh at your routine because they don't understand your commitment. They'll laugh at your silence, your discipline, your distance, mistaking it all for weakness. But that laughter, that's a signal. It means you've stepped outside the lines. It means you're doing something they don't have the courage to do, and that's focus. People laugh at what they fear, what they envy, and what they don't understand. So when they see you pulling away from the crowd, when they see you choosing progress over parties, purpose over popularity, they'll mock it. It's their way of protecting their comfort because your growth reminds them of their own stagnation. It's easier for them to laugh than to look in the mirror and ask why they never tried. But here's the thing. You can't let their noise shake your mission. You're not here to entertain them. You're not here to seek applause. You're here to become something they never saw coming. And the only way to do that is to keep moving forward while they're busy watching. Let them laugh. Let them doubt. Let them whisper. Their laughter is temporary, but your win, that's permanent. They'll laugh when you fail, and you will fail sometimes. That's part of it. But what they don't realize is that every setback, every mistake, every lonely night you spend getting back up, that's building you. That's the raw material of your victory. They'll laugh because they think failure is the end. You'll win because you know it's the beginning. See, most people need permission to chase their dreams. They wait for approval. They wait for the perfect timing. But you decided not to wait. That alone makes you different. You don't need a crowd behind you to start. You just need the courage to keep going even when you're the only one clapping. Because when you finally break through, when the results start showing, when your name starts getting mentioned, when your discipline pays off, those same people who laughed will act like they always believed. That's human nature. First they ignore you, then they laugh, then they watch, and eventually they ask how you did it. But you'll know the truth. You didn't rise to prove them wrong. You rose because you refused to settle, because you saw something bigger, because you decided that your vision mattered more than their opinions. So when the laughter comes, smile. It means you're right on time. Let it fuel you. Let it sharpen your focus, because the moment you stop needing their acceptance, you become powerful. And the moment you stop explaining and start executing, you become unstoppable. One day, the same people who laughed will be watching from the sidelines as you walk into the life they said was impossible. And on that day, you won't need to say a word. Your victory will be the loudest silence they've ever heard. There's something powerful about stepping away, about choosing solitude over the spotlight. In a world that rewards imitation, where everyone's trying to be seen, trying to go viral, trying to copy what already worked for someone else, there's something rare and unshakable about the one who walks alone. Not because they're lost, but because they've chosen to be different, chosen to go inward, chosen to create, not copy. Imitation is easy. That's why so many do it. It gives you quick comfort. It feels safe to follow someone else's blueprint, to talk like them, dress like them, train like them, think like them. But safety isn't transformation. You don't grow by walking someone else's path. You grow when you dare to create your own. That path, it's lonely at first. There's no map, no cheering section, no guarantees, just you, your vision, and the silence that either breaks you or builds you. And that silence, that's where the magic happens. When you're isolated, truly alone, with your thoughts, your goals, your pain, your potential, that's when you start hearing yourself again. That's when you remember what you believe, what you want, and what you're willing to do to get it. Because when you're always around noise, it's easy to forget who you are when you're busy watching everyone else. But when you pull away, when you stop watching and start working, something shifts. You begin to see the difference between movement and progress. You stop trying to look successful and start building real success. You stop chasing trends and start chasing truth. That kind of clarity can't be borrowed. It can't be faked. It can only be found in the quiet. Now, don't get me wrong. Isolation isn't glamorous. It's not always pretty. Some days you'll question if it's worth it. Some nights it'll feel like you're walking through darkness with no sign of light. But if you stay with it, if you keep showing up, keep refining your craft, keep growing behind the scenes, you'll wake up one day and realize you've become something the world wasn't ready for. Not a copy, not a version, but the real thing. The truth is, the most powerful transformations happen when nobody's watching, when you're not performing, when you're not seeking approval, when it's just you versus you, and you choose to keep going anyway. That kind of growth, it's not loud, but it's permanent. And when you step back into the world, you don't come back seeking validation. You come back with vision, with depth, with strength that imitation could never give you. The sooner you fail, the sooner you victory. So don't be afraid to disappear for a while. Don't fear the quiet. Embrace it, use it, create in it. Because while the world chases likes, you're building legacy. And legacy is never born from imitation. It's born from isolation, where you break who you were and become who you were meant to be. And when you emerge from that solitude, not just changed, but transformed, you won't need to speak loudly. The life you live will speak for you. Too often we spend our lives measuring ourselves against the world, watching what others are doing, comparing timelines, chasing trophies that don't belong to us. But here's the truth. Real power, lasting progress isn't found in watching others. It's found in watching yourself, in locking in so deeply on your own growth, your own standards, your own journey, that the noise around you fades into silence. See, when you become obsessed with your own progress, you stop needing to compete with anyone else. You realize your only real opponent is the version of you from yesterday. That's who you're up against. That's who you're trying to beat. And that kind of obsession, that kind of focus, it's not unhealthy. It's necessary. Because this world will constantly try to distract you. It'll dangle comparison in front of your face, tempt you to measure your progress by someone else's pace. But that's a losing game. Their journey isn't yours. Their timeline isn't yours. Their wins, their highlights, their spotlight, none of it can replace the satisfaction that comes from knowing you are getting better every single day. Progress is personal, it's private, it happens in the dark when no one's watching. It happens when you choose to stay committed even when the results aren't visible yet. And that's the part most people skip. They want the finish line without the lonely laps. But if you really want to shock the world, you've got to fall in love with those laps. You've got to track the smallest improvements, celebrate the quiet victories, and stay locked in on the long game. Get obsessed with your routine, not in a way that burns you out, but in a way that builds you up. Show up for yourself like it matters, because it does. How you do anything is how you do everything. Start keeping promises to yourself. Start noticing how far you've come, not just how far you have to go. Progress isn't always a leap. Sometimes it's a step. Sometimes it's just choosing not to quit. When you build that relationship with yourself, when your self-worth starts coming from your own growth instead of external applause, everything changes. You become less reactive, more grounded. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop proving and start evolving. That's when your confidence becomes unshakable, not because you think you're better than anyone else, but because you know you're better than who you used to be. Track your progress, write it down, see it, feel it, get honest with yourself. What did you do today that moved you forward, even just an inch? That's the kind of question most people avoid, but it's the one that changes everything, because when you start asking that every single day, you raise your standard. And when your standards rise, so does your life. You don't need a crowd. You don't need to post about it. You need a mirror, a journal, and a relentless commitment to becoming who you said you'd be. Forget impressing the world. Impress yourself. Shock yourself. Be so consistent, so locked in, so focused on your own growth that one day you wake up and realize you've become the person you used to admire, the one you used to imagine. And you did it not by watching others, but by watching your own progress every single step of the way. There comes a point where you stop trying to convince people and start building something they can't deny. When you realize that talking about what you're going to do won't take you anywhere, but doing it day in and day out will move mountains. The world doesn't respond to intentions, it responds to impact. So don't just aim to be seen, aim to be undeniable. Let your results do the talking. You want to shock everyone? Don't tell them what you're capable of, show them. Let your transformation speak for itself. Let your discipline leave a trail of evidence. Let your focus turn into momentum so strong, so consistent, that even the ones who doubted you have no choice but to respect you. There's something powerful about someone who keeps showing up, quietly, consistently, without needing applause, without craving recognition, just putting in the work. That kind of person becomes unstoppable because they're not fueled by validation, they're fueled by purpose. They've trained themselves to rise without being seen, to improve without being praised. And when their moment comes, when the light finally hits what they've built in the dark, the world will call it sudden. But you'll know the truth. You'll know how many hours it took, how many sacrifices were made, how many nights you spent in the quiet, mastering your craft, while everyone else was sleeping on their potential. People often chase attention thinking visibility equals value. But it's not about being loud. It's about being excellent. So good they can't look away. So consistent they can't deny your effort. So sharp they stop asking how and start asking who. You become the one they call, the one they remember, the one they can't ignore, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Every great creator, leader, athlete, thinker, they didn't arrive by shouting their plans. They arrived by outworking, outlasting, and outperforming. While others chased trends, they chased mastery. While others broadcasted their every step, they built silently, letting the results create the story. And that's what you've got to do. Train your mind to love the grind, to fall in love with preparation, to measure success not by likes or praise, but by growth, by grit, by the undeniable trail of excellence you leave behind. When you hold yourself to that standard, not to impress others, but because it's who you've decided to be, that's when everything starts to shift. You don't need to sell yourself. You don't need to beg to be seen. All you need to do is be what you say you are. Be so disciplined, so sharp, so locked in that your work becomes your voice. Your results become your introduction, and your success becomes your proof. They may doubt you at first. They may overlook you. But if you stay the course, if you keep building, keep rising, the time will come when they can't look past what you've done. They won't have to ask who you are. The results will already be speaking for you, loud and clear. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to prove yourself to people who never saw your vision. What you need is focus. A relentless commitment to your own growth. A quiet discipline that doesn't beg for attention, but commands respect through action. This world is full of noise, distractions, opinions, doubt. But when you choose to silence all that and turn inward, when you stop explaining and start elevating, something changes. You begin to move differently. You begin to rise. They'll laugh. Let them. They'll question you. Ignore it. Because every second you waste trying to please them is a second stolen from your purpose. Choose isolation over imitation. Get so locked in on your path that you forget to look sideways. Let progress become your obsession. Let discipline become your identity. And when the time is right, not by force, but by fire, let your results speak. Let your life speak. And when it does, the world won't need an explanation. They'll already know.